Hello Wargamers, I'm here with a new tutorial. This time I want to share with you how I paint these two miniatures. I will show you step by step the process I follow to paint them. In case you are interested in the bases, this is not included in this tutorial. The bases are explained in another tutorial in another video. Please click the link below if you are interested in see how I paint the bases. And now we go on the painting process of the miniatures. First of all, I prime them on white. This time I use a brush because I only have to paint two miniatures and was quite fast to do that. I try to prime with quite dilute paint to avoid to cover any detail on the miniature. Once the prime is fully dry, normally I wait minimum 30 minutes. Then I start applying the dark color of the uniform. I start with that color because it's the more predominant color in the miniature. This time I use Caliban green for the dark green. In this miniature I want to paint the t-shirt in a very light green. This time I use quick khaki. I want to use a light green to contrast with the trousers. Then I start doing the camo pattern. To contrast with the dark green, I use Gretchen green, but is quite a light color that have a very nice contrast here. During the time that the light green is drying up, I paint with black the boots and other details of the miniature. And coming back to the camo pattern, I add some dark brown spots in the middle of the green ones. So this time I use rhino's hide to finalize the camo pattern on the uniform of the soldiers. As you have noticed, I jump from one part to other of the miniature. The point here is I do one part, then while this part is drying up, I go to another part that is not fully adjacent to this one. In this way, I avoid to mess up with the paints and I don't need to stop and I can jump from one color to another. For the fuel bottles, I use Castellan green. It's quite a dark green and it's different from the one I use for the uniform, as I don't want to use always the same green for all the parts. And now I do a wash with Agvac air shade on the uniform and the fuel bottles to start creating some shades. As you will notice, I haven't painted the skin and some of the light colors. I do that in purpose because applying this dark wash, I can there by mistake other parts. So in that case, it will not matter a lot at all, as the black will not notice if I did a little bit with this dark color, and the other parts will be painted later. Here a side picture to see how the fuel bottles have also been washed with Agvac air shade. And another picture from the back of the man carrying the two fuel bottles. In the case of the skin, I decided to use two different color skins to represent that not everybody have the same tonality in color. I follow this in all my Catachan army. So I have from very pale skin to completely dark skin. In that case, I use the Cadian flesh tone to paint the one that is carrying the fuel bottles. Here another picture of how I apply the Cadian flesh tone. And now I apply Athonian camo shade on the t-shirt of this miniature. This will be very nice contrast with the light green, remarking all the different shades on the t-shirt. Here we have another picture with better light, but it's quite difficult to appreciate the end result here. I think in that picture you will appreciate better what is the result of applying the Athonian camo shade on the t-shirt. On the other miniature, I decide to go for more pale tone. In that case I use Hell Flesh from the various collection of colors from Citadel. Here another picture of the result. As you have noticed at this point, I'm jumping from one miniature to another, The reason is I'm painting one miniature while the other one is drying. In that case, I use Camry Brown to do the hair of this guy. Picture from the back to see the result. On this one, I want to give more a Germanic appearance, so in that case I use Dawn Yellow to do the hair. It's a very pale yellow. And I use Desert Yellow on the neck of the uniform to give a high contrast with the dark of the outside part of the uniform. I use Lorien Forest for the pockets that are in the area of the belt. Here I use Vulcan Metal for the metallic parts. I always apply this type of colors on top of black because it's giving much better results than if you paint directly on the white areas. In the case of the skin, I use Raglan Flesh Shades to do the wash. Another picture to see how the wash is helping to remark the details on the miniature, compared with the other miniature that haven't received the wash yet. To decrease the shyness of the metallic parts, I apply null oil on all the metal areas. Another picture of how null oil is giving very nice result on the metallic parts. I also use washes on the hair of the miniatures. In that case I use Agate Hair Shade. I decided to paint the robe hanging from the side of the trousers on grey tones to contrast with the rest of the colors of the miniature and break a little bit the green uniformity. Of course, I also washed the skin of these miniatures with Raglan Flesh Shade. In that picture I want to show how the wash is helping a lot to paint the fingers, giving very nice contrast between the fingers. And another wash, this time I applied null oil on the robe hanging from the trousers of this miniature. Observe how now the robe, you can see very clear all the details. The cigar is painted with a dark brown, this case dried dark. Now that I did almost all the washes, I start with the highlights. I start applying Adeptus Battle Grey on the black areas. The main black surface are the boots. As you can see here, we can start see some of the details and some of the rings on the boots. I like to do a very high contrast second highlights on black, and in this case I use Fortress Grey. When I was painting the black areas, I realized that I forgot to wash the small pockets and the cover of the knife, so I apply also Athonian Camo Shade on that part. I paint the glass of the goggles with Warstone Glor. I like to use quite a light full green on this type of elements. Continue with the highlights. I used gray khaki on the t-shirt of this miniature. This was used also as the base color, but as I apply a wash on top of the color, now it's darker than the original one, so the highlight is working quite well. As you see here, now we can see all the details on the t-shirt. So we can see the wrinkles and the musculature of this man. And then I apply a very little touch of putty green on the lenses of the goggles. Of course, I also highlight the uniform parts. So in that case I use Lorien Forest to highlight all the wrinkles and all the different details on the uniform, like pockets, zippers and any other detail there. I want to use brighter color for the symbol of the Imperium on one of the miniatures and for the buckle of the belt. I'm imagining that these parts are quite clean and the soldiers take care of these symbols. Here I apply a wash on the light areas of the uniform, especially around the neck. As I did for the bottles that I add on the base. I also apply a mixture of Catachan green and camo green to highlight the bottles, the fuel bottles. I cannot tell you exactly what is the mixture I use, as I adjust this at the same time I'm painting, just to make a smooth transition between the dark green and the highlight areas. I use the same mixture to highlight the symbols that are on the bottles. When I do blonde hair, normally I wash it with Seraphim Sepia. Here another picture, but it's quite difficult to see the result. The light is not helping a lot, and I have a lot of reflections. Small touch of orange are put at the extreme of the cigarette to make the sensation that is smoking at the same time that is carrying the fuel bottles. To do the A's, first I apply black on the area of the A's. Then I apply white, leaving the contour on black. And finally, I apply black, leaving the two extremes on white. So the idea is you have a surrounding of black, then white on the two extremes, and the black in the middle. I hope in that picture you can appreciate better what I mean. At that point that the miniature is almost painted, I decide to put them on the base that I did previously. The reason to base them at this stage is that I have to cut part of the bottom of the miniature, and I will need to repaint a little bit these areas. I also want to later on add some dirtiness on the boots, and will match better with the base if they are on top of the base. Using the picture, I match the color of the bottles that is carrying this man with the bottles that are on the base, as well as with the bottles or the ammo that is for the flamer. But miniature is not finalized yet. Here I'm highlighting a little bit more the skin with Cadian flesh tone. As in the case of the t-shirt, when you apply the white, you are darkening the color. So this first touch is helping to go back to the original color. Of course, I highlight the miniature with pale skin tone with elf flesh, but I also use that to do some extra highlighting to the miniature with darkest skin tone. Observing this picture, how highlighting and shading is helping to see all the details on the face. And here another picture with better light to see the end result on the skin areas. One of the final touch is to put some mud on the boots of these soldiers. Of course, if they are walking on top of the mud, they have to deal their boots with that. To do that, I use medium earth from forge wood powders, and I mix it with water. Then I apply this on the boots and at the bottom part of the fuel bottles. In this picture you will see how I dirt the bottom part of the boots with this brown color, also in that soldier. I almost forget to highlight the small pockets around the belt. I use rotting flesh for that purpose. And camo green is used on the area around the neck of the uniform. And this is the end result of this painting process. As you have been observed, I play a lot with washes, and then when the washes are completely dry, I start highlighting all the different areas. I hope you have learned something from this tutorial and you have enjoyed this video. And that's all for this video. I hope you have enjoyed watching. Please like if you like it, and feel free to comment anything that is not clear or any improvement I can do on my videos. Thanks very much for watching, and see you again later. Bye.